Okay, we are on. Ladies, hello. So, this is day 2. My new title for this training, as I've been posting and compiling emails and little notes for all of you beautiful ladies, the new title I came up with is The Frequency of Radiance. I love that. I'm just in love with all the names I'm coming up with these days. The name for this group, the name for our training. Now, it has been a little quiet in here. Hey, Deirdre, yay, you're joining me again. I'm so delighted. I was just saying, Deirdre, it's been very quiet in the group so far. So I am a little suspicious that no one has been doing their homework, no one has been catching up with the replay. I'd love to hear if you and anyone else who's listening, I want your feedback. I want to hear how yesterday's training landed with you, what it sparked in you, if you reflected at all on some of sort of where you are on that spectrum of the frequency, the embodiment of radiance. I really want to emphasize, there's a progression, there is a design, a deliberate design to how I've mapped out each of our days, our modules, let's say. So the more you can listen in sequence and keep up the journey with me and anchor in your learnings, then I can really support you together as it's landing for you that day. But no shame or judgment, just a request and a loving invitation. So today, I'm excited where we're going today. They're all really juicy topics. They're all essential topics to embodying our feminine radiance. Today, we are diving into, so yesterday was really kind of outlining what's possible when we're tapped into that frequency of radiance. Today, we are going to be going into embodied sufficiency. What is that and why it's so essential? And then some really fun practices around awakening your inner oracle. Two key components and pillars for allowing our feminine to lead the way. I don't want to turn some things, but okay. Love your honesty. So you're in the perfect place. So I'd love to hear, Deirdre, and anyone else, if you are falling on the lower end of the spectrum, like 1 and 2 on some of the pieces, the frequency, the spectrum of radiance that we touched on yesterday, you're in the perfect place, and I am totally here to support you. So when you recognize sort of what your number is on a scale of 1 to 10, the next level, and you know what, each day is going to give you like another piece to the puzzle. I was going to say, start to kind of self-coach yourself and get curious. What would be the baby step to begin closing that gap? And everything I'm sharing with you is meant to give you that food for thought. Especially today's will help you a lot to go up, to bump it up a number or 2. All right, so let's dive into today. Every day is going to have a little mini practice, a little mini meditation, because I'm a meditation freak, in the best sense of the term, to go along with that day's content. And all right, so embodied sufficiency. So let's see, okay. Embodied sufficiency. Let's start there. Why this is so important is because you cannot create an abundant life or abundance of any kind from lack, from scarcity, from deprivation, from dried up, depleted, burnt out, not enoughness, or any kind of rejection, resistance, or judgment of what is in yourself, in your life of any kind. The best way to feed our sufficiency and our enoughness and our embodied abundance, the frequency of abundance, is to start to really get back to that baseline of the feeling of everything being okay right now. Now, ideally, and that's what today's training is all about, ideally, there's the opportunity to not just be okay, but to be right and to be perfect. But getting to okay is a great start. The feeling of everything being okay now is the obviously the way better place to manifest from than lack and not enough. And it starts with, and I'm going to support you further in that. Let's see who else joined. Okay, I see someone else watching. Is to simply start by affirming, I have everything I need right now. All that I need always comes to me at the perfect time. These are just some possibilities. Divine order is always in process, now and in every moment. What is meant for me must be. In other words, what is meant for me is inevitable. So sometimes that can feel like a stretch, and today's training is going to help it feel more accessible. We're just getting started here, so don't worry if your mind's totally refusing everything I'm saying so far. Anything that we are chasing out there, anything that we are wanting to get that we don't feel we have now, it all comes down, all that desire and motivation, it all comes down to the real, like the deeper desire is for more happiness, more contentment, more peace, more almost relief and ease, and that feeling of equanimity. If you imagine, it's almost, that really, like that frequency, that energetic quality of arrival. Imagine that feeling now, arriving at the ultimate destination of already having everything you've ever dreamed and desired of having. There's like a biochemical, energetic, alchemical shift in your entire system that just kind of, it's like the deepest exhale that you can fathom. I call that, just the energetics of arrival. We all crave that feeling. And we spend very little time there in our day-to-day lives. Comment if you can relate to this. So coming back to that place of peace and equanimity and contentment and enoughness brings us back into that state of wholeness, which is the most ideal, fertile, natural birthplace of every other desire. Okay, I'm not seeing any comments yet. That's okay. No need to comment. You can just sit back and enjoy the ride. Okay, so that's a preface. Now we are going to go into an embodied experiential taste of what I'm talking about. So again, if you're driving, walking, riding your bike, keep your eyes open. If you are listening and you're not on the go, I invite you to really sit back, drop in, open to receive. If you're on the go, just listen and come back and review it later when you can be stationary and really internal. So as you close your eyes, slowing down, decelerating, down-regulating is essential to tap back into your feminine radiance. So it can feel really counterintuitive when we're in the throes of our daily momentum. But remember what I was saying yesterday, we are practicing, exercising that muscle of being before doing, stopping before starting. So as you allow your eyelids to relax closed and your breaths to deepen all the way down to touch your pelvic floor, I'm going to invite you to tune back in to what called you here to this training that's all about feeding your feminine radiance. Really connect with your intention of what you'd like to receive, what sparked your inspiration, your curiosity to dive into this realm. And then continue to drop deeper into your body, deeper into like the deeper, wider center of your being. So you can feel this drop down and then expansion out wide, down into your pelvis. Your deeper, wider center. So we've been taught that we must wait to receive what we want. Any form of pleasure, any form of fulfillment, any form of joy from another person, from acquiring an object, from accomplishing a certain experience, or from life cooperating and going our way to our preference, which has us in this perpetual mode of seeking, of searching, and of outsourcing not only our power, but our capacity to feel the way we want to feel, no matter what. Because as long as we believe that the more that we're seeking exists out there, we will quickly forget that what is actually required, that our presence, our deep embodied presence, is what is required in order for us to even be here and available to receive that which we are seeking and desiring. So you might notice as you're dropping in that very automatic overdrive momentum, that forward thrust I spoke about yesterday. That's always in that pattern of wondering what's next, of reaching outside of yourself, convinced that the next moment is going to be better than the moment you are living right now. That is the source of all of our suffering. All the stories we tell ourselves about this shouldn't be this way. This shouldn't be happening. Something else should be happening. There's something wrong and missing and lacking with right now. And something or many things need to be different in myself, in my life, in my experience, in order for me to feel better, in order for me to have the experience I desire, in order for me to be the woman I know I can be. So just notice if there's any of that noise going on inside. And just recognize that is the root of all of our suffering. Resisting what is and projecting our happiness onto things out there going a certain way, being different than they are. And just for now, because you have chosen to be here in this training, you've chosen to take this time out, and I'm giving you an additional opportunity to not only do that, but actually to turn all the way back inside of yourself. I want you to feel like you can make that 180-degree shift to go deep inside yourself, turning away from that racing to the imaginary finish line. And all your attempts to fill up the hole of what's missing, to fix what you believe is broken or wrong, and place it back inside of yourself, inside of your body. So you feel your breath. And can you allow this moment to be okay? To be enough? And maybe to even be perfect. By affirming that whatever you are feeling is exactly what you are supposed to be feeling. Whatever is happening is exactly what is supposed to happen. And find maybe that willingness to move into an even deeper agreement with exactly what is, to even say yes to it. We're so automatic in the ways we say no, and we reject, and we judge, and we blame, and we shame, and we find that it's just not enough. Yeah, but something's always missing. I'm challenging you to be more of a yes to yourself and your life, to this moment just as it is. Notice what that experience feels like. And then just another couple of moments here, I want you to notice where you feel most present in your body. And notice what pleasure, if there is a sensation of pleasure arising, what pleasure are you willing to notice? I guarantee you it's there. Just finding a single pocket of pleasure. And this noticing of presence, this noticing of pleasure, already starts to generate an inner atmosphere of more safety, which down-regulates our nervous system, which is incredibly healing, puts us in the replenishing mode, which is where we need to be to really feed and replenish our feminine radiance. So just take another few deep breaths. If you're noticing where you feel most present in your body, if you've connected with even a hint of sensual pleasure in your body, breathe into it, turn towards it, even give it permission to grow by saying yes to it. What if for now, your only task was to feel as good as you can possibly feel in this moment and in the life you're living? Because when you find presence and you find pleasure and you find that peace and equanimity now, then you're already there. There's nowhere else to get to in order to feel the way you desire to feel. And you've landed in that place of wholeness and equanimity that, like I said, is the birthplace for whatever the more is that you may be craving. So as I mentioned yesterday, when you remember that your now is what determines the quality of your later, you'll probably have a lot more incentive to prioritize that. I can see someone else join. I'm just gonna, oh, I can't see, no one's saying hello. I see some eyeballs on the Facebook screen, but no names except for Deirdre. I love having you all here. Okay, so moving on. So as you're getting the idea already, when you are going through your life, not accepting all parts of yourself, or in rejection to any aspect of your life, and seeing through the eyes of lack and not enough, the risk is, or even the guarantee is, that every desire, every effort to get it, to get what you want, is going to be motivated by a compensation to fill a hole. You'll be working really hard, striving but never arriving, attempting to compensate and make up for all the ways in which you're not feeling enough. You're believing something's lacking and missing and broken. So the end result is it's really like scratching an itch without actually being available for that which you seek ultimately. So you're scratching the itch, but not available for the depth of satisfaction that your soul is really capable of and after, ultimately. Versus, and what is for me will be. Yeah, beautiful, Deirdre. It is a very challenging one for us to embrace. It's a big habit to break, what I'm talking about. So I'm going to say a few more things that's going to help you and everyone else who's listening. So versus when you're happy, when you're feeling good, like I mentioned yesterday, oh, I might sneeze, just a warning, and you're, excuse me, you are available for pleasure. You're available for joy. You're in the receptive, replenished, embodied sufficiency. You're in the most ideal state for not only attracting things, but for enjoying the very quality that you're after in those things in the now, so that your now is no longer a means to an end. It's a fulfillment. So we have to, I think it was Mike Dooley, I originally heard this from years ago. It's this concept that you have to, it's for all these reasons I've been saying, you have to love where you are in order to love where you're going. I alluded to this yesterday. The quality of the destination needs to become the quality of the journey. I'm sure you're going to love that one, Deirdre. That's the habit that we, that's the habit that we have to create versus that trance of the someday when that I talked about yesterday. It's that 180 of actually wanting to be where you are. Which is why loving yourself, like the most powerful work you can do, is to love yourself and love your life like never before. It's the only way you will get to the next best version of you and your life that you're after. You cannot shame, blame, judge, reject your way into bliss and pleasure and joy. It is impossible biochemically, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, physically, like I said yesterday. And yet we're convinced that we can, that it will, or somehow we will be the exception. If we just beat ourselves up enough, if we complain and shame and find all the reasons why we are not enough or our life is not enough and that the future is going to rescue us from our misery, we're convinced that that's the method, that that's the best strategy. It is not. Because acceptance has a frequency to it that judgment and resistance do not. And I think you know by now which frequency is more conducive to having the experience of ourselves in our lives that we want more of the time. All right. So how then can we fall more deeply in love with ourselves and our lives? That is the question at the end of the day. One of the things that I love revisiting myself, I know some of you in here are my private clients, so this might sound familiar with you, to you, because it is something we cannot revisit too often. And Deirdre, you may love this as well, unless you've heard it before. It's a quote by Byron Katie, and I invite you all, as you're hearing this, to just open your system to this possibility. This is what helps us make that transition from rejection and resistance to love and perfection. She says, could it be that all along I have actually lived the life I should have lived, and that everything I've done and that has happened is what I should have done and what should have happened? This is one of the most powerful alchemical shifts that we need to make if we are to embody our feminine radiance. It's enormously healing. And I know, based on myself, based on the clients I work with, that our minds are not going to accept that readily. So again, there's a conditioning. That has to happen. But that is the invitation. And what I'm providing for you is this context today to spark your incentive to do this work more than you have, because we can get really lazy around all of these principles, kind of taking them for granted and not realizing that this is where the power, this is the stuff that makes the difference. It's like night and day. So along those lines, with that quote and those affirmations I was starting to kind of prompt you with, and you can find those for yourself, of how to come into alignment, come into agreement, come into love with what is you can decide that everything that happens, that has happened, that is happening, that will happen, is getting you closer to your ultimate life vision, to your ultimate and highest destiny. The more you believe that, the more you will create that, and the more will be reflected back to you that that is actually true. So everything that happens, you can affirm that it is simply supporting you and becoming all that you are meant to become. And it is priming you and preparing you for the magnificence that you desire to experience more of the time. So you become everything you have ever wanted by accepting exactly who you are and exactly where you are right now. That is the point of everything I'm trying to say. I'm just saying it in about 100 different ways so that maybe there's a channel open that it will land for you. So remember what I mentioned yesterday in day one, that a woman who is embodied in her feminine radiance, her natural state is one of joy and gratitude, because she is devoted to always discovering the lesson that is attempting to get through to her in all her experiences, no matter how blissful or how challenging. So this is where it brings us to, I'm just checking the comments. Okay. So this is what brings me to, we're shifting gears now from Where we've been hanging out so far, the last 30 minutes, is in the realm, in the work, in the practice of how we cultivate and nurture that frequency of embodied sufficiency. And now we're going to shift gears, how that relates to awakening our inner oracle. Because in order to reinforce everything that I've been saying, we have to dig a little deeper, especially if we have and maybe are experiencing a lot of adversity, a lot of turmoil. Is the work for all of us when we are in that position of, life feels like it's against us. Nothing is going our way. Nothing has been going our way. No matter how hard we try, we can never get to where we want. Or, all those, your flavor of that is the depth that we have to go to is to investigate how, if we are to get to embodied sufficiency, embodied love, embodied abundance, and embodied radiance, is begin to look, how could what is happening right now that you have been wanting to get away from, that you've been wanting to change, that you've been wanting to fix, that you've been wanting to be different, how could that be the best thing that could ever happen to you? And to go so deeply into that investigation and that excavation of the wisdom, I call it the grace in the grit, the diamond in the rough, right? We're mining for the gold in the darkness. You want to go so deeply into that investigation yourself that you can start to get excited and turned on about that very adversity, to the point where you can be deeply grateful and stand in celebration and enormous appreciation, because you can start to transform it, transmute it, alchemize it into the blessing in disguise that it really, really is. That's not just like a fluffy saying. That you get to the point where the learning and the lesson becomes so invaluable and so precious to you that you would not change it for anything. That you realize what it makes possible, the opportunity it gives you to become more of who you desire to become, but also need to become in order to progress and evolve into the next best version of you in your life. That what you are receiving through that adversity is actually far greater than what you imagine you'd receive from getting what it is you want according to your ego's preference and agenda, if you get my drift. All right, so yeah, this is the stuff that I live for, that turns me on. So if you can feel my passion, yeah, this is just where I love to hang out. So let's see, I was going to give you, I'm noticing that my battery is going low. I was going to give you a personal example of this, but I think I'll save that. I want to just keep, yeah, I don't want to go like way over our time. All right, so, but if you want, if you want more elaboration on any of these points, if you have questions, if you have personal challenges with this, if you need more support, that's why I'm here, ladies. I'm showing up live to hold this container for you to do this work with me. So I am available. Pop it in the comments when you're listening to the replay, and I will address it. So our final point, the key to being able to tap into this, the highest, the deepest, the truest truth, is around all of this excavation process, this inventory, this investigation, I was thinking. The key to being able to tap into the highest truth, the truest truth, the deepest truth, and to allow your feminine energy to lead in your life more than it has, is to give her the time and the space to come forward. Meaning, honoring ourselves, honoring yourselves through creating sacred time and feeding your inner feminine is a must in order to hear your intuition, in order to have that channel open to your inner oracle. So the first step to cultivating that practice is to get radically honest. You know, you may, all of you, I trust, have some kind of a practice, however flimsy or consistent or inconsistent or rich and deep it is. I trust that you all have, you know, dabbled in something, and it may evolve and morph from season to season, as mine often does too. But you might have a core practice. But the first step here is to get what I want, no matter where you've come from, no matter where you are today. We're going to kind of wipe the slate clean and just sort of take an inventory on that and enhance it in any way that you're feeling inspired based on what I'm sharing. And the first step is that we want to get radically honest about what has been or what does stop you from creating that sacred space just for you, to honor yourself, to honor your inner feminine. What stops you from creating that sacred space just for you, and that gets in the way of you being open to your own channel? In other words, start to get really curious and clear for yourself. And I'm going into your home play, kind of your tangibles now, your takeaways for you to home play away yourself and circle back and reflect and anchor them in here. What are the things, the people, the behaviors in your daily life that you have been allowing to get in the way from you spending that sacred time, from you listening to your inner feminine, your inner oracle, from you feeling really dialed into that, your embodied wisdom and intuition? I'm going to strongly request and invite you to comment this so that we can workshop through that together. And I really would love to know. It's going to be part of that movement to shift it. If you can share that. What else occurs to you that what might come between you and your inner wisdom, your inner oracle? How much do you listen or not? How much do you trust it or not? And I'm just checking the comments, moving my document over. And is there a truth that you've been unwilling to hear or to face that's been coming up for you in your life? Your inner wisdom, your inner oracle trying to get through to you. And then from there, so that's kind of looking at, where is there been kind of some static in that relationship, in that sacred space? And then shifting gears. So these are the questions, again, like I'm saying, these are the questions I'd love you to dialogue with yourself about. And then start to get curious. What are some of the simple daily activities, practices, rituals that either you already know or that you can start to imagine that most help you access your inner wisdom, your inner oracle? that when you feel the closest to her. And based on whatever's coming up for you, what is one thing, one practice, one ritual, one commitment you're inspired to make in order to turn up the volume on that relationship, on that dialogue? Again, I'd love to hear what that could be for you. Okay. So that you're actually anchoring all of these new learnings and whatever ahas you have into an embodied action. So it's not just cerebral and learning, but you're actually informing and cultivating and nurturing a new way of being with yourself and with your life and with your inner oracle, in service of more embodied sufficiency and embodied radiance. So one of the simplest, as you're just starting to, again, maybe this is, you're super dialed in already. Great. Let's just turn the volume up even more. The simplest place to start, wherever you are, is to create, to honor yourself with some sacred space and time, 5 or 10 minutes. And you simply can ask, to your inner oracle, your inner wisdom, what is in the highest, best good for me to know right now? You can keep it super general. You can even get more specific based on some of these questions around your relationship with your life and your circumstances. What is in the highest and best good for me to know about X, Y, or Z? As you're starting to make this shift from maybe the shame, the blame, the resistance, the judgment, the trying to get away from, to actually the falling in love with. So all of this comes back down to, this is the practice to begin falling back in love with what is and with who you are, the woman you are, and the life that you're living right now. Because your higher self, your inner oracle, has all the answers and knows the perfection. There is nothing, no aspect of you or your life experience that is not divine. So that is, I'm curious, how does that land for you? Is that a truth that you can start to align with? Deirdre, she's commenting. I was just going to check in because we're kind of wrapping up. I'm curious, Deirdre, anyone else live who wants to just comment before my battery goes down? I'm going to turn off my screen light to see if I can save a bit. Let's see what Deirdre has to say. Okay. Great awareness. So you go around in circles, clearings, around in circles, clearings. I'm not sure what you mean. Right back to just sitting and being, meditating. Good. Yeah. So you're noticing the mind telling you you're not doing enough. That's such a big one. Yeah. And you've been putting your partner first. Great awareness. So, yeah, so I'd be curious, Deirdre, based on what we've covered today, what would you like to be more devoted to? You've been engaging in this training in a big way so far. because you've shown up for day one and now day two from start to finish. So there might already be some things percolating, or one kind of energy percolating that you're feeling moved to be more devoted to. And you can just start to kind of nurture that, nourish that in yourself. Give space for that to kind of emerge and be in that question. Given where I've been up until this training started, given what I've been receiving the last couple of days, what is it that's wanting to emerge more? And what is it that is wanting more of my devotion? It's a beautiful place to start, and just be in that question for a bit. There's no rush to know. You'll, trust that that'll surface and make itself known. Oh, wow, I just got like massive likes and hearts and faces. Who was that from? I love it. So yeah, so see how that sits with you, Deirdre, and circle back and let me know what comes up if you'd like to share. But that's what I would give you, something really simple to support you with in that awareness of getting, that radical honesty. And to, the mind tells me I'm not doing enough. I know that one well. So, this is where we start to really, we can our mind can either be our greatest enemy and destroyer, destroyer of our thief of our joy, or we can start to turn our mind into our greatest asset. So what would you have to believe or think in order to know, and what would you have to think in order to believe that you are doing enough? Like, what would be a possible reframe on that you could align with, more than defaulting to that the tape recorder that your mind has on repeat on what is it? Yeah, repeat, I guess, on speed dial. All right, ladies, so I'm going to wrap up. Wow, I've been going a long time, these lives. So you have 2 days to catch up on, ladies. Tomorrow, you can get excited. I'm pretty sure. I know some of you are pretty excited about this one. So tomorrow, we're going to be going into desires and goal setting the feminine way. Super juicy stuff. So I would love for you guys to catch up as much as you can, because like I said, there's a deliberate, intentional design to how I've progressed the content that we're building on. So I'd be delighted to have you catch up. If you really need like a catch-up integration day, I'd be willing to consider that, but I need a lot of hearts and a lot of comments and a lot of requests in order to grant that. So I know that you guys are engaged and dialed in. Okay, Deirdre, it's been a pleasure having you, and then all of you eyeballs who are hanging out, it's been a pleasure to have you, even though I don't know who you are. I'm not sure how that works. Maybe you have to make a heart or make a comment in order for your name to show up. I don't know, but I've loved having your presence, and I look forward to hearing how all of this lands for you. And anything you want to comment, it would mean so much to me. To just get some reflections, so I know, on what level you're engaging and feeling all of this as we're going through it together. Okay, sending you all love, and more tomorrow. Ciao.